The mansion on the hill was never noisy, not even during the wildest storms. But that night, something strange shook its quietness. The guards outside could hear laughter, deep, sudden laughter, from their cold, stone-faced boss, Kang Junhyuk. For 10 years, no one had ever heard him laugh. Not once. Inside, maids whispered in fear, stopping in the corridors with trembling trays. "Did you hear that?" One gasped. "He's laughing like a normal man." Another maid pressed her palm to her chest. "Or like someone who just found life again." The grand chandelier trembled slightly from the vibrations upstairs. No one dared climb those stairs to find out what was happening. All they knew was that their boss had gone to a party hours ago and returned carrying a single red heel. A woman's heel. No woman had ever entered that mansion since his accident 10 years ago. Junhyuk sat alone now in his dark room, staring at that red heel as if it held a secret no one else could understand. His reflection in the glass wall was unfamiliar. A man alive again, shaken, confused, and excited like a boy seeing the sun for the first time. He gripped the heel tighter and whispered, "Who are you?" The memory of her flashed in his mind. The smell of her perfume, her bold smile, her laughter that cut through the heavy bass at the party like lightning through rain. Her name, Deborah, still lingered in his thoughts, like a song stuck on repeat. Hours earlier, the city had been glowing with gold lights and champagne bubbles. The annual Seoul Investors Gala was where money met arrogance, and arrogance met fashion. Everyone came dressed to prove a point, except Deborah and George, who came to live. She arrived late, walking into the ballroom in a golden silk dress that hugged her like it was made just for her. Her skin glowed like melted honey under the chandeliers. People turned, some in admiration, others in disbelief. She wasn't from their world of politeness and pretense. She was energy, a storm wearing heels. Deborah moved like she owned the night. She greeted no one, yet everyone stared. She picked a glass of champagne from a passing tray, took one sip, and grinned at her reflection on the glass wall. "Korea," she murmured. "You've never seen me dance yet." The DJ switched to a slow, deep beat, one that made the floor hum softly. That's when she saw him, Kang Junhyuk, standing at the far end of the room, surrounded by men in black suits, glass in hand, eyes empty. Everyone knew who he was, the silent investor, the man with too many enemies and too much power. But to Deborah, he was just another man who needed to loosen up. Without hesitation, she walked straight to him, ignoring the gasps and murmurs. His guard stepped forward, but Junhyuk lifted a hand, curious. No one ever dared approach him, especially not like that. Deborah stopped right in front of him and smiled, her red lips shining under the golden lights. "You look bored," she said boldly. "Dance with me." The room fell silent. Even the DJ seemed confused. But Deborah didn't wait for permission. She took his hand, firm, cold, powerful, and pulled him gently toward the center of the floor. For a second, he froze, unsure how to react. His men looked shocked. No woman had ever touched him like that. Deborah turned, the rhythm guiding her hips, her laughter spilling freely. Her hair brushed his cheek as she moved. The crowd began to whisper louder. Some laughed, others filmed. But then, something strange happened. His heartbeat changed. He felt alive. His body, once numb and silent, responded to her nearness like a spark meeting dry wood. His breath caught. His hand tightened around hers. His eyes, usually sharp and unreadable, softened with disbelief. He hadn't felt this in years. It was as if her energy had reawakened something he thought was gone forever. He tried to hide it, but she noticed the change in his face. "You're welcome," she teased, her voice dripping with confidence. "You finally look human." He almost smiled. Almost. But before he could speak, her friends called her from across the hall, and she blew him a kiss. "Nice dancing with you, boss man," she said, walking away with her heels clicking against the marble. He stood there frozen, every nerve in his body burning with shock. His guards watched, confused, as he touched his chest, trying to understand what just happened. Then, quietly, he said, "Find her." By midnight, his cars were speeding through the city. His men were checking guest lists, security footage, and flight manifests. Every club, every hotel. Her face flashed on every private screen he owned. And now, back in the mansion, Kang Junhyuk sat with that red heel in his hand, the one she lost while running to her car. It was all he had of her. His pride told him to forget it. His heart refused. "Deborah," he murmured, "you don't know what you've done to me." Outside, thunder rolled across the dark sky. As his men reported, they still couldn't find her. He leaned back in his chair, a strange smile curving his lips. Not the smile of a businessman, but of a man who had finally met his match. Somewhere in the city, Deborah sat in her apartment, eating noodles, humming to herself. "That man?" She laughed softly, shaking her head. "Couldn't even dance, but he looked like trouble in a suit." She didn't know that her little act of boldness had just changed the course of her life. The night the mansion trembled was the night two worlds collided. His cold power and her wild fire, and nothing would ever be quiet again. Morning sunlight sliced through the glass walls of Kang Junhyuk's mansion, landing on the untouched breakfast table. The man who used to start every day with military precision now sat half-dressed, scrolling through security footage. His hair was messy, his tie hung loose. Every frame was her. Deborah laughing, Deborah spinning, Deborah holding his hand for that single second that ruined his calm. He replayed it until the sound of her voice echoed in his mind like a haunting song. He wasn't sure if it was obsession or curiosity, but he couldn't stop. Min-suk stood nearby, clearing his throat carefully. "Sir, we've checked every guest list, every hotel. There's no record of her anywhere. Perhaps she used a fake name." Junhyuk's voice was low and steady. "Then find the real one. She didn't appear out of thin air." Min-suk hesitated. "And if she refuses to come?" The boss looked up with a faint, dangerous smile. "She won't refuse." Across town, Deborah was living her best post-party morning. Her apartment was small but sparkling, filled with perfume bottles, half-open designer boxes, and music playing from her phone. She danced in her pajamas while brushing her teeth, humming the same tune from the gala. Her phone buzzed. A video call from Zarya back in Nairobi. "Girl," Zarya shouted before the screen even cleared. "You made headlines here. Do you know who that man was?" Deborah laughed. "A bored Korean in a fancy suit? Bored? That was Kang Junhyuk, the man people call the Silent Dragon. Rich, dangerous, mysterious." Deborah cut her off, waving her toothbrush. "You forgot terrible dancer." Zarya gasped dramatically. "You danced with a mafia boss and insulted him? Are you mad?" Deborah winked. "Maybe, but he needed a little shaking." She didn't know that outside her apartment, two sleek black cars had just pulled up. Junhyuk's men moved quietly, scanning the building. Within minutes, they had confirmed her location. Min-suk called the boss, who was already dressed in a black tailored suit, calm and unreadable. When they knocked, Deborah opened the door wearing a silk robe and holding her coffee. "Delivery?" she asked casually, then froze when she saw the men in black. One of them bowed slightly. "Miss Deborah and George, our boss would like to see you." She blinked. "Boss? What boss? I didn't order a boss." "Mr. Kang Junhyuk." For a second, she thought they were joking. Then she saw the limousine behind them. She chuckled softly and crossed her arms. "Tell him if he wants to dance again, he should send an invitation, not an army." Min-suk's jaw twitched. "Please, ma'am. He insists." Deborah sighed, pretending to be annoyed though she was secretly thrilled. "Fine, but I'm not leaving without breakfast." She grabbed a croissant, her handbag, and her phone, then followed them like a celebrity heading to an award show. The mansion looked even more intimidating in daylight. Giant gates, fountains taller than palm trees, guards who didn't blink. But Deborah didn't flinch. She fixed her lipstick in the car mirror before stepping out. Junhyuk was waiting at the entrance, expression calm, eyes sharper than knives. For a moment, neither spoke. He simply studied her, trying to understand how someone so carefree could shake his entire world. Deborah broke the silence first. "You again. I was starting to think I imagined you." His lips curved slightly. "You're hard to forget." She raised an eyebrow. "That's usually my line." He gestured for her to follow. Inside, the grand hallway smelled of expensive wood and rain. Servants stopped whatever they were doing to stare. No woman had walked through that corridor in years. Deborah noticed the attention and whispered playfully, "Relax. I'm not here to steal your jobs. Unless the uniform comes with diamonds." Junhyuk turned, clearly fighting a smile. "You talk too much. And you don't talk enough," she shot back. "It's unbalanced. I'm here to fix that." In his study, he motioned for her to sit. She dropped gracefully into a chair, crossing her legs with deliberate flair. "So," she said, "why the drama? You could have just texted me." "I don't text strangers." "But you send men in black suits? Romantic." He ignored the sarcasm. "You left something behind." He reached into a glass case and placed her red heel on the table. Deborah gasped softly. "You kept my shoe? You Cinderella'd me?" His gaze didn't waver. "It's not just a shoe. It's evidence." "Evidence of what?" "That I outdanced you." For the first time, he laughed. Quietly, deeply, as if he'd forgotten how. The sound startled even himself. Deborah leaned forward. "See? You can laugh. You're welcome." He looked at her closely, his tone softening. "You don't know what you did to me that night." She tilted her head. "Should I apologize?" "No," he said slowly. "You should be careful." The air grew thick. His warning was half truth, half confession. She sensed it but didn't back down. "Careful is boring," she replied, standing up. "Anyway, if you're done interrogating me, I have errands. Like living." As she turned to leave, he called out, "Deborah." She paused. He studied her again, eyes unreadable. "You will dance for me again. Tonight." She laughed, loud and genuine. "You think you can just order me to dance?" "I don't think. I decide." "Well, Mr. Decide, you'll have to learn to ask nicely." Then she walked out, hips swaying with deliberate mischief, leaving him half amused, half furious. Minsuk entered as soon as she disappeared. "Sir, should we stop her?" Junhyuk shook his head, a rare smile still on his lips. "No, she'll come back. I don't know how, but she will." That evening, rain started falling over Seoul. Deborah sat in her apartment, scrolling through her phone, replaying the conversation. For the first time, she felt a strange mix of excitement and fear. There was something about that man, his calm, his control, his secrets, that pulled her in like gravity. She stood by the window, watching the raindrops race down the glass. Her phone vibrated. An unknown number. A text appeared. The song from last night is playing again. Junhyuk. Her heart skipped. She looked outside. Across the street, a black car waited with its lights on. The same slow beat from the gala floated from the speakers. She smiled, grabbed her coat, and whispered to herself, "All right, boss man, let's see what fire feels like twice." And as she stepped into the rain, the city lights reflected in her eyes. The beginning of a dangerous dance that neither of them would ever control again. The rain had turned Seoul into a field of glittering mirrors. Streetlights shimmered on the wet asphalt, while black cars moved like silent beasts through the mist. Deborah's heels clicked against the pavement as she crossed toward the waiting limousine. The driver stepped out, opened the door without a word, and held an umbrella over her head. Inside, warmth and music waited. That same rhythm from the gala, slow, deep, magnetic. She smiled to herself. "Persistent man," she whispered. The door closed behind her with a soft thud, and the scent of expensive leather filled the space. Junhyuk sat opposite her, dressed in a charcoal suit that looked like it had been stitched by angels and ironed by lightning. He poured champagne into 2 crystal glasses. "You text instead of sending soldiers this time," Deborah said, relaxing into the seat. "Progress." He handed her a glass. "You came." She raised it in salute. "I was curious which version of you I'd get tonight. The silent dragon or the man who laughs?" His eyes flickered with amusement. "Maybe both." They drove through the city in silence for a while, the soft hum of the engine mixing with the rain. The car turned off the main road, passing through private gates until it stopped before a modern glass building glowing with soft lights. "What's this?" she asked. "One of my clubs," he replied. "Closed tonight." "I wanted quiet." Deborah grinned. "A mafia boss who rents out an entire club for silence? How romantic." He stepped out first, then offered his hand. The gesture was polite, but the look in his eyes wasn't. It was sharp curiosity wrapped in restraint. She took his hand anyway, pretending not to feel the jolt that ran through her. Inside, the club looked like another world. A single spotlight glowed above the dance floor, and hundreds of empty glasses sparkled behind the bar. Music drifted low from hidden speakers. "Dance," he said simply. Deborah laughed. "You really don't do small talk, do you?" "I don't need to." She placed her purse on a table and rolled her shoulders. "All right then, boss man. Try to keep up this time." The beat rose, slow and dangerous. She moved easily, rhythm running through her body like a secret language. He watched, hands in pockets, eyes unreadable. "You're not moving," she teased. "I'm observing the art. Observation is boring. So teach me." He stepped closer, one deliberate stride at a time, until he was just behind her. She could feel the heat of him, smell the faint trace of cedar and smoke. When he finally moved, his hands didn't touch her. He mirrored her instead, keeping an inch between them, following every sway like a shadow learning how to live. The silence between beats thickened. When the music stopped, Deborah turned and laughed to break the tension. "Not bad for a businessman with too many bodyguards." He almost smiled. "And you're not what I expected." "Flattering." "Dangerous," he corrected. She tilted her head. "You're afraid of me?" "I'm afraid of what happens when I'm not afraid." The words hung in the air like smoke. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the doors burst open. Min-suk rushed in, breathless. "Sir, we have a problem." Jun-hyuk's expression hardened instantly. "Speak." "It's Eun-bai. She's leaking photos from the gala. Claims the woman you danced with is using charms on you." Deborah blinked. "Charms? What is this, a drama?" Min-suk ignored her tone. "Reporters are already gathering outside your hotel properties." Jun-hyuk rubbed his temple. "Handle it." Deborah folded her arms. "You're not denying it?" He glanced at her. "I don't waste time denying foolishness." She stepped closer. "Still, maybe you should thank me. Free publicity." He gave her a cold look that melted slowly into reluctant amusement. "You're chaos in heels." "Thank you," she said brightly. "I take that as a compliment." By midnight, they sat in the upper lounge overlooking the empty dance floor. The chaos outside was already fading. Min-suk efficient as always. Deborah kicked off her shoes and leaned back on the velvet couch. "So tell me," she said, swirling the last of her champagne. "Why all this? You could have ignored me. But instead, you send cars, close clubs, and act like a mystery novel." He watched the rain slide down the glass. "Because I don't understand you, and I don't like things I can't understand." "You mean women?" she teased. "People who change everything by existing." Her laughter softened. "Maybe that's called attraction. Maybe it's a problem. Then you have a delicious problem, boss man." For a moment, something unguarded flickered across his face. Loneliness. It vanished quickly, replaced by composure. "You talk as if life is simple," he said. "It can be if you let it." He looked at her directly. "You don't know my world." "Then invite me in and I'll learn," she replied without missing a beat. Silence again, charged, heavy, but somehow comfortable. Finally, he stood. "I'll have you driven home," she smirked. "Running away already? Protecting you. For now." He left her with the echo of that promise. Outside, photographers were still flashing cameras in the rain. As Deborah's car pulled away, she saw her own image on a tabloid screen. The black woman who shook the mafia. She burst out laughing. Back in the mansion, Jun-hyuk sat in his study, phone buzzing nonstop. Every powerful figure in the city wanted to know who the mysterious woman was. He ignored them all. Instead, he replayed a short video clip from the club. Her laughing, spinning, fearless. Min-suk entered quietly. "Sir, do we issue a statement?" "No. Let them wonder." "And the woman?" His eyes darkened slightly. "Keep her safe. From the world. And from me." Across town, Deborah texted Zarya. "Girl, I think I started a storm." Zarya replied immediately. "Then dance in the rain, bestie." Deborah looked out her window, smiling as lightning lit the skyline. She didn't know that across the city, the same storm reflected in Junhyuk's eyes, because for the first time in 10 years, the man who controlled everything had found something he couldn't control. And that something had a name, a laugh, and a pair of missing red heels. Morning in Seoul arrived wrapped in gossip. Every cafe, beauty salon, and online feed hummed with one headline: "The Black Woman Who Bewitched the Dragon." Deborah's picture was everywhere. Her laughing at the gala, her hand in his, the sparkle of her golden dress caught mid-spin. Comment sections burned with theories. Some called her bold, others called her lucky, and a few whispered that she must have used magic. Inside her apartment, Deborah munched toast and scrolled through the chaos, wearing sunglasses even though she was indoors. "They call me a witch now," she muttered. "At least they picked a fashionable one." Her phone rang again. Zarya as usual. "Bestie!" The voice screamed through the speaker. "They're saying you cast a spell on him." Deborah laughed. "If dancing counts as witchcraft, then I'm guilty." Zarya lowered her tone. "Be careful, Deborah. Men like him don't play fair. And jealous women? Worse." Deborah sighed, looking out her window at the distant skyline. "I didn't plan any of this. I just danced." "Yeah, but you danced with a thunderstorm." At the mansion, thunder was indeed brewing. Unbai stood in the marble lobby, waving her phone in rage. "She humiliated us. That foreign girl turned the gala into a circus." Junhyuk descended the stairs slowly, adjusting his cufflinks. "Unbai, leave it alone." "Leave it? They're mocking your family name." "I built my own name," he said flatly. "And I decide who mocks it." She bit her lip, fury trembling behind her carefully painted smile. "You'll regret protecting her." He met her gaze. "I don't protect her. I owe her." Unbai flinched, confused. "Owe her what?" He walked past her without answering, leaving only the faint scent of his cologne and a silence she couldn't stand. Later that afternoon, Deborah tried to sneak out for groceries in a cap and hoodie. It didn't work. A group of teenagers spotted her near the bakery. "Is that her?" one whispered. "Daybek, the dancing queen," another shouted. Before she could react, they surrounded her for selfies. Deborah laughed awkwardly and posed anyway, flipping her hood down. Okay, but tag me nicely. Hashtag unbothered." When she finally escaped back to her building, she found Minsuk waiting by the elevator. "Miss Deborah," he said, bowing slightly. "The boss requests your presence." "Again?" she sighed. "Tell your boss I'm charging appearance fees now." He didn't smile. "He insists." She eyed him for a moment, then shrugged. "Fine, but I'm not changing my outfit." This time, the car drove through an underground tunnel before emerging in front of a seaside villa she'd never seen. Waves crashed against black rocks below, and the air smelled of salt and rain. Junhyuk waited on the terrace, hair windswept, sleeves rolled. No bodyguards this time. Just him, the sea, and 2 glasses of tea steaming on a table. "You brought me to the ocean?" she asked. "Romantic? Or are you planning to drown me?" He almost smiled. "Neither. I needed quiet." Deborah dropped into a chair. "You really hate crowds, huh?" "I don't hate them," he said. "I just don't belong in them." For a moment they listened to the sea. The silence between waves was strangely comfortable. She broke it first. "Why me? You could have any woman in this city. Why chase a stranger who dances too much?" He looked at her directly. "Because you woke me up." She frowned. "You were asleep? In every way that matters." His voice was calm but heavy, as if each word carried a history. He told her briefly about the accident 10 years ago, about the pain, the distance, the empty years of control and silence. He didn't mention details, just enough for her to see the loneliness behind his power. When he finished, she exhaled softly. "So that's why they call you the Silent Dragon." He nodded once. "And now the dragon is awake, apparently." Deborah leaned back and grinned. "Then maybe I deserve royalties." He actually laughed. Quiet, genuine. The sound startled even the seagulls circling above. As the evening faded, a storm brewed again on the horizon. The wind rose, scattering papers and spraying mist across the terrace. Suddenly, Min-suk appeared at the door, rain dripping from his coat. "Sir, you should see this." He handed over a tablet showing a video leak. Footage from the club last night. Someone had recorded their dance through the tinted glass and sold it online. The comments were worse this time. Conspiracy theories, racial slurs, fake interviews. Deborah's stomach twisted. "They're disgusting." Jun-hyuk's jaw clenched. "I'll find who leaked it." "You don't have to." "I do." She watched him pace, the calm mask cracking for the first time. There was real anger there, not vanity but protectiveness. "Hey!" she said softly, standing beside him. "Don't give them that power. They want to see you rage." He looked at her, surprised. "You're not scared of internet trolls?" "Please. I survived Nairobi traffic." The tension broke into reluctant laughter. "Fine," he said. "Then stay here tonight until this settles." She raised an eyebrow. "In your villain lair?" "In my guest room," he clarified. She pretended to think. "Does it come with breakfast?" He smirked. "If you survive the night, yes." Hours later, the storm struck full force. Rain pounded the windows. Thunder rolled over the sea. Deborah wandered through the quiet villa in one of his oversized shirts. He'd insisted her wet clothes be dried. She found him in the study, staring at a wall of city maps marked with red lines. "You plan wars from here?" she joked. "Business logistics," he said without turning. "Looks like a treasure hunt." He finally faced her. "Maybe it is." They stood there for a moment, the storm flashing behind the glass. Then, unexpectedly, he said, "You don't belong in this chaos." "Maybe chaos is where I dance best." Something unspoken passed between them, respect, curiosity, something close to danger. When she finally said goodnight, he watched her walk away, the echo of her footsteps mixing with thunder. For the first time in years, Kang Jun-hyuk felt the storm inside him match the one outside. By morning, news feeds had changed tone. Instead of insults, some called their story unexpected romance. Others praised Deborah's confidence. Public opinion was shifting. Deborah sipped coffee on the terrace, wrapped in a blanket, watching the ocean sparkle after the storm. When Jun-hyuk joined her, she smiled. "Looks like the city's calming down." "For now," he said. "And you?" He looked at her for a long moment. "Still learning how to breathe again." She raised her cup. "To new air, then." He clinked his cup against hers. "To the woman who brought it." Far below, waves crashed against the rocks like applause. Neither of them noticed the shadowed car parked on the distant cliff. Unbai inside, camera in hand, eyes burning with jealousy. The storm might have passed, but the next one was already forming. The morning after the storm, Seoul glittered under soft sunlight. But in Kang Jun-hyuk's mansion, the air still buzzed with something no one could name. The maids whispered as they moved through the hallways, glancing at the closed guest room door where she slept. A black woman in the boss's house was enough to set the city's gossip alight. But a laughing one? That was a scandal. From the top balcony, Jun-hyuk watched his staff try to act normal. He didn't blame them. He hardly recognized himself either. There was a lightness in his chest he hadn't felt in 10 years, like the world had loosened a chain. He looked down at the garden where Deborah stood barefoot, sipping tea in his white robe. Her braids glimmered under the sun, and she was talking to a koi fish like it owed her money. "Don't look at me like that," she scolded it. "You're lucky I don't fry you with plantain." Jun-hyuk couldn't help it, he laughed, out loud. The guards nearby stiffened, as if the sound broke some ancient rule. Deborah looked up. "Oh, you laugh now? I thought your face only had one setting, serious and scarier than my landlord." He came down the stairs, trying to hide a smile. "I'm not scary. You kidnapped me twice, boss. You're scary with premium membership." He shook his head. "I offered breakfast, didn't I?" She grinned. "And I accepted. We're even." Inside, the dining table looked like a royal buffet. Silver trays, fresh fruit, steaming soup, pastries that glowed like gold under the chandeliers. Deborah blinked. "Wow, I just wanted eggs. This is a wedding." He gestured for her to sit. "I don't do half measures. Clearly, even your napkin looks expensive enough to pay rent." He almost choked on his tea laughing. She joined in, clapping her hands dramatically. See? Progress. You're now at 3 laughs since last night. We might hit 5 before lunch. She bit into a croissant and eyed him curiously. So, Mr. Thunderstorm, what do you actually do when you're not scaring people? I invest, he said simply. In what? Weapons? Hotels? Chocolate factories? All of them. She blinked. Okay, Willy Wonka with guns. He laughed again, quietly this time, but his eyes softened. You really don't fear me. She pointed her fork. Nope. I fear cockroaches and bad Wi-Fi. Not men in suits. Later that day, his phone buzzed. Min Suk entered with a grim face. Sir, we found the source of the video leak. Who? He hesitated. Miss Eunbai's assistant. Jun Hyuk's eyes darkened. Handle it quietly. No more leaks. Yes, sir. Deborah watched from the hallway, pretending to check her nails. Trouble in paradise? He sighed. Something like that. She leaned against the wall. If that woman is still obsessed with you, maybe I should wear armor. You'd make armor look like art, he said without thinking. The compliment slipped out so naturally that both paused. Deborah blinked. Okay, that was smooth. You rehearsed it. He smirked. No. Then I'll allow it. By evening, the house was quiet again. Too quiet. Deborah wandered into his office, her curiosity unstoppable. The shelves were lined with books on finance, but one corner held photos. A younger Jun Hyuk, smiling beside a man who looked like him, and a woman holding flowers. She whispered to herself, So you used to smile a lot, huh? He entered silently behind her. That was my brother and mother. She turned, startled. You really need bells on your shoes. They're both gone, he added. Accident. Years ago. Her teasing faded. I'm sorry. He nodded once. People stopped apologizing a long time ago. She stepped closer. That's because people forget what it's like to lose something and still wake up the next day. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time he realized how much weight she hid behind her laughter. Who did you lose, Deborah? She smiled sadly. Someone who taught me that life doesn't wait for you to cry. You either dance or get trampled. Silence filled the room again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was understanding. Outside, Eunbai's car glided to a stop near the gate. Her sunglasses reflected the mansion lights as she watched Deborah's silhouette through the window. So that's the woman, she whispered. The one who replaced me with a laugh. Her driver spoke quietly. Should we proceed with the plan? Eunbai's lips curved into a cold smile. Yes, let's remind her that this city doesn't love foreigners for long. That night, Deborah couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony, watching the waves break against the rocks below. The wind carried a soft chill, but the air smelled alive, like promise and danger mixed. She heard footsteps behind her. You're awake too? Jun Hyuk asked, holding 2 cups of warm ginger tea. Couldn't sleep. The sea's too loud. It's louder when you've got secrets, he said, handing her a cup. She took it, sipping slowly. So you're still keeping one from me? He glanced at her. Several. She raised a brow. Well, when you're ready. I charge by the hour for confessions. He smiled faintly. And what's your secret, Miss Deborah? That I'm just a girl trying not to fall for chaos. A pause. The waves roared like applause. Then stop looking at me, he said softly. Too late, she replied. Elsewhere in the city, Eunbai's men slipped an envelope across a table to a gossip reporter. Inside were pictures of Deborah entering the mansion, wearing his robe, sipping tea on the balcony. The price tag was written in neat red ink. The reporter's eyes widened. This will explode the internet. That's the idea, Eunbai said, standing. Let the world see how low their king has fallen. As she walked away, the reporter already typed the headline. Mafia boss's forbidden affair. The foreign beauty who moved in overnight. Morning arrived with chaos. Reporters lined the gates. Cameras flashed. Drones buzzed above the garden. Inside, Deborah held her phone, staring at the trending tag. Wow, they didn't even let me brush my hair for this one. Jun Hyuk stormed into the room, phone in hand. It's everywhere. She looked at him calmly. He stared at her. You're not angry? I'm African, baby. We survive worse storms than hashtags. He almost smiled. You're impossible. That's why I'm unforgettable. Despite everything, the flashing cameras, the headlines, the tension, she laughed. And for a second, even he did. But outside, Unbai watched the chaos from her car window, sipping coffee, her eyes glinting with victory. She whispered, "Dance now, Deborah. Let's see if you can dance through fire."
Hello besties, thank you so much for watching episode 1. Kindly stay tuned for episode 2. Kindly like, subscribe and share.